Welcome into the Box Score YouTube channel. We are Tricky Takes. I am Austin. We have Billy. What's up, Billy?
Hey guys.
And we got Connor.
How's it going?
So hopefully you're coming here after listening to our podcast this week, and that's why you're here. If you're here because you're here for the uh, NFL preview show, don't worry. We've also got that coming this week. This is the MLB NLCS 2024 preview. We're going to talk about everything that the Dodgers and the Mets need to do to win this series. And then at the end, give our predictions of who we think is actually going to come out on top of this thing. We're going to do the same thing tomorrow with the ALCS, so be on the lookout for that. But let's get this started right off with the just I guess telling you a little bit about the two teams that are going to be playing against each other. We have the Mets secure their spot a few days ago. We've known they are going to be playing this for a few days, and they've kind of lined up their pitching. The Dodgers just secured last night, got a big win over the Padres, shut out the Padres, and are advanced. So it's a little more iffy on their roster construction, specifically their pitching lineup, how they're going to stack their starters. But after doing some research, we think we've nailed it. So we're going to give our pitching lineups and probable pitchers. Again, this is not like a confirmed thing of who's going to be going, but we kind of have a really good idea. Connor, you had the Mets lineup we think nailed. You want to give us
Yeah.
that?
So starting off, pretty obvious is going to be Kodai Senga. He's had plenty of time to kind of recover and get right and get his arm together. Hopefully, he gives him more than a couple of innings this time. And then game two, Luis Severino. Game three, Sean Manaea. And game four, Jose Quintana. So a pretty solid starting rotation right there coming from the Mets. Good to kind of have that locked in early and very good that they locked it up in time to give everyone rest so that way they don't have to kind of scramble and find a guy for game two or game three.
Yeah, and Senga coming back from injury, probably not expected to go deep into it in the game one, but I'm thinking they're hoping they can get four, maybe five innings out of him. Their bullpen is shaky. It's not great. The back end of their bullpen is good, but their setup guys and long relievers are just good at best. So they're definitely wanting to get as much out of their starters as they can, especially their horses. But the Dodgers are in a different situation, but overall it kind of nets out to about the same result. Billy, do you know who they're probably going to be lining up the first few games?
Yeah, so it's looking like Jack Flaherty is going to be in line to start game one. Um, and then they'll roll. Hopefully, we'll see Yamamoto come around in game two. And then once we get to game three, we'll probably see a Walker Buehler. And then after that, it gets a little dicey for the
Yeah.
Dodgers. We saw them throw a bullpen game in the NLDS, and there's a good chance that we can see that happen again this series as well.
Um, yeah, those games we're pretty sure about Flaherty game ones, games two and three with Yamamoto and Bueller. We don't know.
A little
That I
bit
mean that's
possible.
yeah, that's a 50-50 on how that ends up. I think they want to get to Yamamoto as early as possible. So if he's ready by game two, I know they would love to do that. Uh, for the bullpen game, that's another sketchy one because Alex Vesia is probably going to be hurt. I think he's getting an MRI this morning. We don't know the results of that yet, obviously, but I know they would love to have him for their bullpen games. He's a guy who can go several innings. He can start. He's a big help for those bullpen type games. So that bullpen game for the Dodgers is going to be sus, but they did a really good job in their bullpen game versus the Padres. So this Mets lineup is not any more dangerous than the Padres. It's a different construction, but I think overall the Padres and the Mets are very comparable in terms of overall ability.
Yeah, and
Uh,
one thing I think that could be a benefit even for that bullpen game is the postseason experience that Dave Roberts has, along with Mark Pryor as the pitching coach out there. They've been there every year the past 5, 6 years, and they know how to handle it. So I think that could be a benefit to them.
Yeah, having that knowledge and I feel like they'd be more willing to pull a guy sooner rather than leaving him in there and seeing what he can get out of. So I think that'll be a bit of a factor in decision making that Dave Roberts just has an edge on.
Yeah. So I was going through some of the stats for each of these teams, looking at who has kind of been their MVPs, I guess, through the first two. There's obviously no MVP awarded for the World Wild Card round or the DS, but the NLCS does have an MVP, and the World Series obviously does have an MVP for the winning team. Uh, but I was kind of looking through seeing who each team would need to step up, be their key contributors, and get this thing done. So I was looking at overall kind of stats. And when you sort by OPS for the Mets, Jesse Winker immediately pops off the page. He obviously had a big game in their clincher against the Phillies. But overall, he's played really well. He's in the 5 games he's played. He has 2 hits and 9 at bats, including a triple and a home run with 3 RBIs. And he threw a stolen base in there, which is something that we have never thought possible from Jesse Winker in years past. But for some reason this year, he decided he wanted to start stealing bases. And then the biggest surprise is actually Mark Vientos, really young guy, his first playoff series. He comes in 28 at bats, 12 hits. He's batting 429 this postseason with a 1.18 OPS. So the man can hit. His third base defense is pretty solid as well. So those are two guys who I'm looking to stay hot, hopefully through this, and then obviously Pete Alonso with one of the biggest, probably the biggest home run of his career to this point, in the DS. So uh, 3 guys who I think need to continue to stay hot to win. Francisco Lindor has been good. He had the big grand slam, but outside of that, he really hasn't been that productive. And he can just keep doing what he's doing because he plays great defense, is a great leader. If he can just stay doing what he's doing, the Mets will be all right. If I'd look for one guy who will need to actually like kind of step up their play and maybe turn their postseason around this next series, I'm actually looking at Jose Iglesias, who was on a really crazy hot streak to end the season, but has cooled off now that the postseason's got here. He's had some postseason experience before, so I expect him to get it turned around at some point. He's never been known for his bat until like this year. So maybe it's just kind of reverting back to his old self, but I doubt it. He was good pretty much the entire season and ended really hot, so I'm expecting him to pick it back up in this series.
Yeah, Iglesias didn't even play in the bigs last year. And, as a guy that's never been known for his bat to come in, produce the way he did, um, you know he'll be reliable on defense. So you just gotta get him rolling a little bit with the bat.
And he is one of those guys where, yes, he does need to step it up with the bat, but because of his defense, he's going to find a way out onto the field. They cannot lose that up there, up the middle, especially. So I don't know that his bat is necessarily the most important part of his game, but it would be a huge benefit to the Mets for him to pick it back up.
And then over on the Dodgers side, Mookie Betts has 2 home runs, but only hitting 220 in the postseason. He's not been hot. He's definitely the guy who has to get it going because he has a ton of postseason experience, has been majorly successful in some of those experiences as well. He's looking to get another ring. The guy who jumps out to me though that like is hot and stay hot, that's Teoscar Hernandez, who had that monster home run last night. I don't know if either of y'all saw that one. That was a tank that Teoscar hit last night. He's got 7 RBI in just the 5 games. So yeah, he's a guy who can mash. He won the home run derby this year, so I guess that's kind of expected. But he does a lot for this Dodgers team. I'm a big Teoscar Hernandez fan as well, so I'm enjoying his success. But then when you look down this lineup, you're like, hey, there's a couple guys who I'm not really seeing their name when you're looking at this OPS leaderboard, and that's because Freddie Freeman's OPS is 571 in the 5 games, and Shohei's is 623. So those are the two guys who obviously have to get it going. The Dodgers were lucky to come out on top without either of those guys really performing that well.
And I wouldn't be too worried about either of them. Freddie's been dealing with some ankle stuff, so he hadn't been at full speed, full health. He's got all the postseason experience. He's been here before with the Braves and now the Dodgers before this. Shohei is Shohei. I would never be worried. I could see him have a terrible 10-game stretch, and I'd still assume that he's going to be amazing in the very next game. So he's just, both of those guys have the talent and ability. I think they'll get back on track, especially with Freddie becoming, fully healthy moving into the series, I think.
The one thing that would worry me is that the Dodgers have not been good against lefties in the postseason, particularly Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Gavin Lux, even Shohei. His OPS is down about 300 points, which it's still in the 800s against lefties, but you compare that to righties, then that's a big difference. So Mania, Quintana, you got to have, good performances from them if you're the Mets, in order to, continue that trend and hold those hitters down and really, put the pressure on Will Smith, Mookie Betts, Teoscar, those guys to produce when they have the chance.
Definitely. All right. You already go position by position or position group by position group, I guess, and give our breakdown. So we're going to start at the pitching position, the starting pitchers. Which group's starting pitchers do you like more heading into this series?
I like the Mets significantly more. They've got four guys that I think can go out and give them consistent innings. I think all four of them have been averaging about 5 to 6 innings a start so far in the postseason. And then you go over to the Dodgers side, and they're, without Glass now, they're most likely going to have a rotation game going in. And yes, the bullpen and relievers have been amazing so far in the postseason, but without having consistent starter reliability, I just don't know that I can go with them over what the Mets have.
I think for me, I would prefer the three that the Dodgers have compared to the top three that the Mets have. But having only three guys is a major concern in a 7 game series. And, we don't exactly know how many innings we're going to get out of Kodai Senga. Sean Manaea pitched the best game possibly of his, career outside of his no-hitter in the NLDS. And then Jose Quintana, he's been a very reliable option for the Mets there. They don't lose many of his starts. And then, you got a guy like Luis Severino who you don't never really know what you're going to get with Severino. He's a little bit more of a wild card. I think that you can rely on consistency with the Dodgers rotation a little more, and you can be more comfortable with those guys. But with the role that the Mets are on and the depth they have at their starting pitching, I might give the edge right now to the Mets.
Yeah, I'm trying to weigh those options like you, Billy, of uh, the high end starters that the Dodgers have versus the depth that the Mets have. I'm actually going to go with the Dodgers here. I do think that Yamamoto and Flaherty are a really, really good 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Uh, if Senga was fully healthy, I think I would probably sway me towards the Mets side, but we just don't know what we're going to get out of Senga. He pitched 3 innings in his last game. I would be surprised if he gets to five, honestly, in this game one. I'm expecting probably four out of him. And I mean, the fifth starter or the fourth starter, excuse me, does make a difference, but I just really think that if I could like throw out my two best guys for the Dodgers and give myself a really good chance to win those two, and then it's more of a toss up in those games 3 and 4 rather than like it's a big swing for the Mets. They have maybe a slight advantage, but I think the Dodgers have a bigger advantage in games 1 and 2 than the Mets
Mhm.
do in 3 and 4. So that's why I'm going to slightly lean the Dodgers. When it comes to the bullpen, though, I think it's no contest. It's the Dodgers by a landslide.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
not even close.
I think the big key is going to be whatever game Walker Bueller starts, is he going to give you a quality start? And, that's going to be a major, major key for this series.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big question. Let's move to the catcher position. We a veteran who's been around a long time, and Will Smith is the primary catcher for the Dodgers. And then on the Mets side, we've got a young guy, Francisco Alvarez, who has not been that great in the postseason and has had a really up and down year. But when he hits a lot. Who do you like more going into the series?
I think I am going to lean Will Smith. He's just the more consistent guy. Francisco Alvarez has kind of had more ups and downs, whereas with Will, you've got uh, steady production. You know what you're getting. He's caught in these high pressure moments before. He knows these pitchers a lot better that he's got. So I just think with all that experience, it does really hurt Alvarez's chances. But not to say Alvarez is going to have a bad postseason or series here, but Will Smith is just the guy right now.
Yeah, Will Smith would be my pick. He's been there, done that. And, Alvarez gets in these streaks, these strikeout streaks. And, if he gets into one of those going into this NLCS somewhere, it's going to be a big issue for the Mets. So I would give the edge to Will Smith here.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on that. This is one where it gets interesting. We got our corner infielders, so first base and third base with the Dodgers. We are most likely going to see Freddie Freeman playing first base, and at third base, it's probably going to be Max Muncy. So that's a couple power lefties versus on the Met side, you've got a power righty and Pete Alonso, and then the guy who I talked about being super hot and Mark Vientos. This one's very tough. Who do you guys have?
This has been tough for me. I've been kind of going back and forth this one about the whole time we've been talking, trying to make a decision. But I think, again, I do have to lean Dodgers here with the experience that both those guys have in the postseason. And it's hard to bet against Muncy and Freeman whenever you've seen them year in and year out succeed so late in the season. But it's tough. I think this is a very, very close matchup. It's a slight edge.
Yeah, I lean Mets here. Max Muncy, like I mentioned, hitting just 172 against lefties. Freddie Freeman hitting 250 compared to 300 against lefties. And, the ankle's a question. We'll see how that plays out. But the key for me is Pete Alonso has been really good at limiting the strikeouts in the postseason. I think he's got 8 strikeouts to 7 walks. So he's been about even there. And then, the power's come to play when it needs to. And then, like we mentioned with Mark Vientos, he's been hot this postseason. I think he can keep that rolling. We see some of these young guys that like kind of like a Randy Arozarena story almost, where you get rolling in the post and you don't know how big the moment is because it's your first time there and you just keep it rolling. I think that this can be a moment for Vientos to do that. So I give the edge to the Mets here.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Mets as well with you, Billy. Up the middle, we've got an interesting situation as well here. Uh, the Mets have Francisco Lindor, who is one of the best players on the field whenever he's playing right, and then they've got man Jose Iglesias next to him up the middle, who we were talking about, kind of needs to get it going, was having a good season. The Dodgers, they have an interesting situation because Mookie Betts can sometimes play shortstop. He's been out in right field. They've had Mickey Rowe playing shortstop, and then they've got Gavin Lux playing second. If for some reason they decide to go back to Mookie playing short, I would give the lean to the Dodgers here because Mookie is fantastic. But with him playing mostly right now, I am going to lean the Mets.
Yeah, I'm the same way with the defense that they've got up the middle. They're amazing. And then if you can get Iglesias and Lindor both hitting, it's a pretty big swing in the Mets direction.
Yeah, if you throw out the combination of Miggy Rojas and Gavin Lux, give me the Mets. If Mookie's there, I think Mookie's in for a big series. That would probably change my decision, but if we're assuming how they've been rolling with Lux and Rojas, give me the Mets.
Yeah, they put Mookie back out in the outfield, and he still is practicing at shortstop. But I'm assuming, barring Mickey Rojas just completely falling apart or getting hurt or
Yeah.
something, I'm assuming they're going to leave Mookie out in right field. Uh, so yeah, that goes to him. And then lastly, we've got our outfield matchups. We've got Teoscar Hernandez, who's been one of the hottest hitters in the postseason, out in left field. Mookie Betts probably going to be out in right field, and then in center, they've got a few guys that the Dodgers like to throw out. They've got Andy Pages that likes to go out there. Chris Taylor likes to go out there. Tommy Edman. They really like to mix it up, play based on matchups versus the Mets. They've got Jesse Winker, who's their left-handed bat for the outfield. They've got Brandon Nimmo, who's another left-handed bat for the outfield. They've got Starling Marte, who is a right-handed bat out there, and they've got Tyrone Taylor, who's another right-handed bat out there, and Harrison Bader is probably going to be in center field. So they also have the ability to play matchups, but I think more than likely we're going to see some combination of Marte, Bader, Winker, and Nimmo. I think those are the four guys we're going to see the most of in this series.
Yeah. I think even with all that, it's the Dodgers by a pretty good margin. I mean, you've got right now we're projecting Teoscar and Mookie to be out there, and that alone is kind of enough for me to lean them, even without, Tommy Edman, who's been having a solid season, Andy Pages, who's been doing decent. So, I mean, they've got the pieces and options, and right now, two of the best guys in the outfield in the league are going to be out there in Dodgers uniforms. So I don't think the Mets are going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, hard to pick against the star power out there with Mookie Betts and Teoscar. Jesse Winker, the power's been there, but I'm worried about, how consistent can he be in this series? Can he continue to deliver? Marte is, a solid defender, but the bat's kind of been dragging a little bit this year. Bader, almost in the same situation, great defender, but, he's got to, be consistent at the plate. So in my eyes, the overall advantage goes to the Dodgers.
Yeah, even without Mookie playing his best ball, I think the Dodgers are still probably in the lead in this department for me, especially with all those matchups they can play. The Mets can play those well, but I think the guys I like the guys that the Dodgers have a little bit more. So matchup advantage them. All right, it's time for our predictions. Connor, who do you have winning this series? How many games are going, and who is your NLCS MVP?
I've got the Mets in six with Pete Alonso MVP.
I've got Dodgers in seven. I just think that they've got this playoff experience. Um, overall, we do position grouping and whatever. I probably lean the Mets, but I just think that the Dodgers are going to find ways to win games. And I think that bullpen is going to be key. And I think that, we'll get a good game out of Yamamoto. We'll get a good game out of Flaherty. And then, the rest is up to the bullpen. Like I said, I think Mookie is in for a big series, and I think Mookie would be the NLCS MVP.
I'm gonna get aggressive here. I'm gonna go Dodgers in five. I think if they win this series, it is going to be early. I think if it goes to a game seven, that's probably when I get a little more nervous because I think I don't know who you're gonna see on the bump for game seven for the
Yeah.
Dodgers if they're back in a Walker Buehler starting situation. I don't love that, but yeah, I like the Dodgers to try and get it done as early as possible. Obviously, both teams are going to be trying to do that, but I think the Dodgers can have success doing that. And I think that'll be off the back of a really good pitching performances. But most of the time, pitchers don't win the series MVPs. So I'm going to lean a hitter. Give me Kike Hernandez.
He always comes in clutch,
I don't
man.
know. Yeah. It'll be like, a three game, like he'll play three out of the five games or four out of the five games. He won't play them all. And, maybe he'll pitch hit in the one he doesn't start or pinch hit in one of them and have a big hit. I don't know. Kike has that postseason clutch factor. We've seen it time and time again with him on the Red Sox or the Dodgers. So yeah, I don't know. Kike is a fun guy. I think he's one of the better personalities in baseball, especially on that Dodgers team. So yeah, looking for him to come up clutch for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I do love me some Kike.
All right, well, that wraps up our NLCS preview. Stay tuned for at the Box Score YouTube channel for our ALCS preview tomorrow, and also the Box Score NFL Sunday Pick'em game matchups that we're probably going to be posting as well. So we'll catch you then. See you.